Like a backstage pass to the world of fly fishing travel, this is Waypoints, the podcast of destination angling. News and events, helpful travel tips, destination profiles, great stories, and expert advice from some of the most seasoned and experienced names in fishing travel. Waypoints is brought to you by Yellow Dog Fly Fishing Adventures, the industry's #1 specialty travel company for the very best insider knowledge, logistical support, and trip preparation. Freshwater or saltwater, international or domestic, Yellow Dog has you covered for your next fishing adventure. And now, your Waypoints host, Yellow Dog founder and director, Jim Klug.
Dobar dan, zdravo, jaz sem Rok Lustrik, dobrodošli v Sloveniji. Tukaj smo, ker bomo šli muharit, to je vrsta ribolova, kjer se uporablja umetna muha in komaj čakam, da peljem Jima in Toma in upam, da se bomo imeli odlično. Najlepša hvala.
Yes, well, here we are in Slovenia, a country that is renowned for its crystal clear rivers, stunning alpine scenery, and diverse fish species, including the iconic marble trout. With so much diversity and an incredible number of rivers, Slovenia offers fly anglers what may be the best freshwater fishing in all of Europe, in an area that without question delivers some of the most beautiful natural landscapes on the continent. Slovenia's strong conservation efforts and the protection of native species like the marble trout, the hucho taimen, and European grayling have helped maintain and support thriving fish populations and a legitimate angling infrastructure for years. This episode of Waypoints is being recorded on location in Slovenia with Rok Lustrik, a renowned fly fishing guide and founder of Slovenia's Lustrik Fly Fishing. Passionate about fishing since the age of 12, Rok turned his hobby into a profession in 2000, establishing himself as a leading guide in Slovenia and beyond. His expertise and experience with the rivers and waters of Slovenia is unmatched, and with his deep knowledge of the region, a well-known commitment to conservation, and a lifetime of experience fishing for trout, taimen, and grayling, there is no better host when it comes to visiting and fishing Slovenia. On this trip to Slovenia, I'm joined by my buddy Tom Bai, editor and publisher of the Drake magazine. Over the past week, Tom and I have had the full immersion in Slovenian culture, driving all over the country, fishing for a variety of species, and taking in the history and culture of this fascinating part of Europe. Over the course of our trip, we've explored central Slovenia and the Ljubljana area, the high alpine region of western Slovenia, and the Mediterranean and karst portion in the southwest part of the country. Rok has shown us some of the most scenic parts of Slovenia and exposed us to world-class fishing opportunities we had no idea existed in this part of the world. So once again, on location in Slovenia, we are joined by European fly fishing legend Rok Lustrik. Rok, welcome to Waypoints.
Oh, welcome. Oh my God, too kind. No, I'm just a local guy. So
Fly fishing legend. So we're starting off, you poured us some... a shot of something. What are we drinking here?
This sadjevec in Slovenian language. So basically it's apple schnapps.
Oh, kind of a breakfast shot.
Yeah, there you go. To get things more smooth.
Whoa, I wouldn't describe that as smooth, but it tastes like apple, so that's good. Well, Rok, I always love it when we are on a trip and we have the ability to record an episode on location. We've been running around all week. We're going to talk about that. We're about to go out for our final day on the river, but we thought it would be good to sit down for a bit and talk about this amazing trip. I want to start off by hearing a little bit about you, Rok, and your background. Tell us about yourself and how you found your way to fly fishing.
So, of course, I mean, fly fishing in Slovenia have been around for hundreds of years, basically, in one way or another. So when I started, it was, of course, I mean, fishing, but in the early days when I was a kid, already poaching in the little streams and things like that, like as most, teenagers back in the day did. And I mean, luckily my son sort of does it as well, but
he's got the bug.
Yeah, we're not going to let anyone know, right?
Yes.
So anyway, and then I was started with course fishing because funny enough, at that time for children, it was not allowed to fly fish on their own because it's quite a lot of wading. So it was considered dangerous. So at the age of 16, I could then start fly fishing. So basically I got the bug from a neighbor. So he introduced me to it, and then also tying flies and this and that. And then my father picked it up as well. So, and then with my father, a neighbor, we traveled around, explored rivers, learned different techniques. And so yeah, that was basically the start of it.
And you've been hooked ever since.
And yeah, pretty much on it ever since, yeah.
Well, let's set the basic picture for our listeners that maybe did not pay close enough attention back in high school geography class. Tell us where in Europe Slovenia is, a little bit about the region and which countries border Slovenia.
So yeah, I mean, there will be a lot of info out there that Slovenia is Eastern Europe, and this one is actually it's not correct, and it's not correct politically and also not correct geographically. So if Slovenia is something, is either Central or Southern Europe. So we border Austria to the north, and the capital of Austria, Vienna, is stretching further to the east than Slovenia does. So if Austria would be, let's say, considered Eastern European country, so would we be? So then this is our northern border. So the western border would be Italy, the eastern border would be Hungary, and then southern border would be Croatia. So this geographically by countries, and then by geography, we are nestled between the Alps to the north and the Mediterranean Sea to the south, and then Pannonic Flatland to the east. So that's why it gives it this sort of unique environment in terms of different environments and fish species as well. Another one, then, just to say why not Eastern Europe in a political sense, because we were part of Yugoslavia in the past, and inside United Nations, Yugoslavia was not an Eastern Bloc country, but was a part of unaligned movement.
Yeah, so I mean, such an incredible location over here where you guys are. I think sometimes people get Slovenia, at least in America, get Slovenia mixed up with Slovakia, two very different places.
Yeah.
Again, this is European. You've got Austria to the north, bordered by Italy, Hungary, and Croatia. And it's not a large country, correct? I mean, it's about 7,800 square miles in total size for the country, which compares geographically to the state of New Jersey. So that kind of puts it in perspective for a lot of people. And I think there's like 2.1 million people in this country, correct?
Yeah, correct. I mean, basically, it's the population 2 million, and it's also been one of few countries historically in the region as well that has a positive migration. So people, meaning more people are moving in than moving out. Which sometimes that, tells quite a lot. So, but anyway, yeah, it's very small. So now we are located very close to the town of Kranj or Ljubljana, that is basically in the center of the country. So to put things in perspective, to drive from north to south of the country is an hour and a bit. To drive east to west is 2.5, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, small country. So a lot of our listeners have of course, heard of Slovenia, but are not familiar with the actual history of the country. So let me lay some groundwork. I'll give the 30-second version. Slovenia's modern history began with its independence from Yugoslavia in 1991. Prior to that, Slovenia had been part of various empires, including the Roman Empire and later the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which leading up to World War I, it was very much a part of. After World War I, Slovenia became part of a kingdom that would later be known, of course, as Yugoslavia. Following decades under communist rule within Yugoslavia, Slovenia was the first of the Yugoslav republics to declare independence. Again, this was in 1991, driven by a desire for political freedom and economic reforms. After independence, Slovenia transitioned to a parliamentary democracy and joined both the European Union and NATO in 2004. It has since developed into a prosperous and stable country with a strong economy and a reputation for incredible natural beauty. And of course, amazing fly fishing, which we're going to be talking about today. So there it is. Everyone is now up to speed on Slovenian geography, where it's located, the size, history, and how large the country actually is. So, Rok, even though Slovenia is a fairly small country, it is incredibly diverse when it comes to geography. And from a fly fishing standpoint, you touched on it just a second ago, but tell us where you specifically operate within the country. Give us a quick rundown and description of kind of the area in which you roam to fish and explore.
So basically, I live and I'm based in the center of the country, which gives me the chance to basically operate everywhere. And that also then means that I have the capability to offer people as much diversity as possible, because also sometimes you have some rain or so, and then the rivers can get blown out. So if you're staying in the center of the country, that's not really a problem because, we have so many different ecosystems. Some springs of the rivers are from the east or some from the south. So that means that if it rains in the north, we'll be fine on the south. And vice versa. So by staying in the center, you have the chance to fish basically everywhere and get the most out of the fishing trip.
Well, I have to say, Rok, one thing that I did not expect with this trip was the sheer number of rivers and the huge amount of fishing options that this country has. It seems that everywhere we go in Slovenia, there's just fishable water everywhere. We're constantly driving along a river or a stream. It's everywhere you go in this country. And you have, everything from large mountain rivers, freestone rivers, tailwaters, to tiny spring creeks and chalk streams. Give our listeners kind of your best general description. This is a hard question, but of the types of waters one can expect when they come to Slovenia to fish. How would you describe the characteristics of the typical Slovenian river?
So basically, like we mentioned, there's a lot of different ecosystems in a very small area. So quite a lot of people get really surprised that within 35-minute drive, let's say, you have from a river that you could picture yourself in UK, fishing one of the famous chalk streams there. And in the other moment, driving, an hour north and into the heart of the Junior Alps, you'll face yourself in an environment that looks very much like maybe New Zealand, and all in between. And also doing one on one day and doing the other in the other day gives it like this huge contrast. There's a lot of people ask me what is very typical of the country. And I actually put a lot of thought in, and the only thing that I could really think of typical for the country is the huge diversity of it.
Yeah, that's a good answer because we've certainly seen that. Now, no matter where you fish in the country, as a fly angler, it's all walking and wading in these rivers.
Yeah, correct. There's basically, by law, it's not allowed to drift boat fish. There's only one sort that it is allowed on the lakes, but not on rivers as such. Probably because one, if there would be someone fishing from the bank, if you have a boat going through, it would disrupt the fishing for the guy walking, right? So this is probably one of the reasons why fishing from boats as drift boats as such is not allowed.
Yeah, and for anglers that love to walk and wade all different types of rivers, this is the place. Now, I want to talk about the different river systems in Slovenia, and you can correct me on how I'm laying this out there because I'm sure I'm going to get this partially wrong, but there are essentially two main rivers that kind of define everything for the fishing opportunities in the country. There's the Socha and the Sava, kind of the main watersheds, I guess. Different areas of the country, but these two rivers really define the species that are caught in different parts of the country, correct?
Yeah, you were pretty much on spot there. There are two river systems. So the Sava being a bigger one, and then the Socha a little bit smaller. So the Sava watershed is the rivers that eventually drain to the Black Sea. So they are flowing northeast from north southeastwards, let's say, and they have a long ways to go. So they end up in the Black Sea, and this is the area where we would find grayling, rainbow, brown trout, and hucho. So hucho, that is one of the three species of what listeners would more know as taimen, that is present in, let's say, Mongolia and Russia.
So that's the Sava, grayling, browns, rainbows, and taimen.
Correct, yeah. This is the Sava, the Black Sea watershed, and then we have the Adriatic watershed. So Adriatic watershed, Adriatic Sea is a part of Mediterranean Sea. So on these rivers, there's a mountain division between them. So, and then this basically we're talking about Socha and its tributaries. There are two other different rivers that flow more straight into the sea, but they are smaller, which probably we're going to do one of them today. This river is then the kingdom of the marble trout. That is one of the biggest species of landlocked trout in the world.
So you've got the Sava and you've got the Sosha. It all kind of starts with those two. And we brought up the species. And this is another topic, Rok, where the term diversity really applies. In fact, I'm not sure there's anywhere in Europe that offers as much legitimate species diversity for fly anglers as what you have here in Slovenia. Give us you kind of touched on them a second ago, but the main target species when you're fly fishing here in Slovenia.
Yeah, I mean, we, of course, have a lot of native species that are super cool. So in one side, the brown trout in the Black Sea watershed, so the Sava we have in the summertime, let's say, or spring, summer, autumn, that we're allowed to fish. So for trout is brown trout and grayling, but also then the non-indigenous rainbow trout that here in the Sava spawns on its own, been introduced good 100 years ago and is basically thriving. And I mean, we don't really mind having it. And then in the Socha side, so the Adriatic, the Mediterranean side, we have also some pockets of indigenous native Mediterranean brown trout, as well as marble trout and grayling. And of course, we do have some rainbows in that area as well. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different species, and then also people can target specific one as well. I mean, if one would like to tick a few species boxes and so, yeah, that's of course very much doable.
Well, arguably the most iconic fish species in Slovenia, when people from outside of this area hear about fishing in the country, is the marble trout. Tell us about this fish and describe it to those that have never before fished them or even seen a marble trout.
So probably for listeners from US, I would describe it to being behavior-wise very similar to bull trout. So they are still a trout species. So that means when they go, I mean, they get to, 40 inches, like 40 pounds, right? So, but this would be very rare specimen, but they still exist. But still being trout, meaning that up to, let's say, 20 inches, they're still going to feed on insects and dry flies if the conditions are right. They're not a solo streamer species. I mean, they will rise for dry flies and take little nymphs when they are smaller. When they grow bigger, let's say like 30 inches or so, then they really become strictly carnivorous. And therefore, the game changes. I mean, it would be streamer looking for a little bit higher water, looking for a little bit situations that we would have some rainfall, that the smaller bait fish would move inside the river. And when those move, then the big carnivores start to follow them, the predatory fish. So this, then it does require a little bit of special conditions to target those. But I mean, the Latin name is Salmotruta marmoratus. So basically dissecting it, salmon family, trout family, and then marmoratus, so the marble trout. So it did historically probably evolved from a brown trout. So that still classifies it as trout. But yes, behavior-wise, they are really cool. They can change also appearance in a matter of seconds. So they're blending to the rivers really well. A lot of people will ask me, well, I can't see it. I'm like, yes, they really blend in that well, So even for a trained eye, sometimes they're not the easiest species to find.
Well, they're endemic, as you said, to the Adriatic Basin, and Slovenia's Socha River, which we fished earlier in the week. It's kind of famous. It's we'll talk about the colors of the Socha in a few minutes, but it's like white sand, like what you would find in the Caribbean, literally. And it gives a very unique color to the water and to the river bottom. But also, as you mentioned, these marble trout are almost kind of whitish, and they blend in and can camouflage themselves so incredibly well in those waters and over that bottom. But when you bring them in, and they're all a little different, but they've got this distinct kind of marbled pattern down their flanks and up to their gill plates. Just an absolutely beautiful fish. And the fact that they can grow so big, it is reminiscent of like a bull trout. I mean, 40, 50 pounds historically, even though that's, as you said, those are difficult ones to find. They do exist. Yeah. And if you're targeting marble trout in Slovenia, again, you're in the Socha River system. Is there a key time of year to specifically target marble trout if you come to Slovenia?
Yeah, correct. Marble trout, for a specimen, we're not talking about the size, let's say. It doesn't really matter. So from anything from April till the end of September, already in October. October it already closes, but it can be caught by accident. So using a neem for a dry fly or so. So this, it doesn't yet. The season, it's not important. It's more becomes down to sort of guide's challenge to find the right conditions for the right fish, But that's our job, so that's okay. So for bigger specimens, I would nail it down probably to early season. So April, maybe beginning of May, because sometimes it's a little bit more rain. And it is risky in a way, but those were, and it's pre-season, so not many people. And in the Socha, not many rafters and kayakers and that, because there's a lot of that later on as well. So we need to find a little bit more peaceful areas because they are quite shy as well. So it's basically having a cast or two at it, and if it takes, great. If it doesn't, then they won't super move, but they'll just slowly drift away, and that's that. But yeah, doesn't like for a big one early season, but otherwise for a specimen or so, doesn't matter. Even in the summer, it can happen that there's a local storm happens, which would lift the rivers up a little bit, and then it gives it another chance to catch a really big one also.
Well, definitely the iconic species of Slovenia, the marble trout, again, in the Socha system, not in the Sava system.
No, not in the Sava, but also from central Slovenia. The first rivers that have marble trout is like 45-minute drive away. So it's not that far. So it's fine.
Yeah. Now, a lot of anglers might not know that Slovenia also has really legitimate taimen fishing. And this is something that surprised me. I knew they were here. I had heard that they were in some of the rivers, but it's a thing here. And you guys actually have a really impressive population of the hucho that are found in the Danube River basin in Europe. And again, I had heard they were here, but I thought they would kind of be a little bit of a rarity. Turns out they're in a lot of rivers over here, and you can find these things.
No, yeah, these very, very often nowadays this becoming also quite, not popular, but more popular than in the past, because I'll give you like this. So 15 years ago, when I started to fish for them with a fly, I was considered a total weirdo, because this was considered a species that it's either spin or even sort of, it was back then allowed to use dead bait for it, so fly, not going to catch it.
Nobody was doing that.
No, but you're not going to even catch it because these things are carnivorous. Fly fishing, this is for like little bugs and for flies, and that's that, right? And grayling. So, fly, it can't work. But I started to dive big streamers that were imitating fish and so. And my success rate was actually in one river that good that they actually, fun enough, banned fly fishing on it, So allowed spin, but not fly. But now it changed. But yeah, it's so now the populations are actually really, really thriving in some rivers. We maybe even have too many because the trout population then drops a little bit because that's their food source, right? So no, these things are here. They're not easy to catch, but you will have, just to have an idea, you'll have like in some pools, like 3 or 4 of them, not, 3 or 4 in the river, 3, 4 in a pool. And we're talking fish that are up to 50 pounds, 60 pounds. We saw some like that, right?
Oh yeah. And when you roll up on the river and you're like, okay, there's a nice trout. And then all of a sudden you see a 4-foot creature, sitting next to a log or out in the middle of the run. It's pretty amazing that they're in these small rivers and small streams. How are you fishing for these taimen? You talked about big bugs. Obviously, you're not fishing a 4-weight with 5X and small fly patterns. Talk to us a little bit about how you're fishing for these things.
Yeah, with a 4-weight you can if you're using a small fly and then you hook a rainbow and then you're live baiting all of a sudden, right?
Yeah, then the taimen comes out, eats your rainbow, and it's game on.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, it doesn't happen that often, but it still does happen. So yeah, joke aside. So no, I mean we use it. It's almost crucial that it's big streamers. So we're talking like musky type streamers, right? On the bottom, it needs to be on the bottom. So therefore, we are using 400 to 700 grain sink tips with 9 to 12 weight rods. Sometimes even a switch, but not longer than 12 foot. Because the problem with longer rods, it would not be the cast, but it would actually be the set. Because these fish on the take that is very, very gentle, it needs to be a set. They're not like, don't think of them like salmon or sea run stuff that will take and turn. These guys don't turn. So when they take, they grab it, and for them the hunt is over. So you need to feel the take and then make the set. And then, then they're big and they roll and they splash around. So they're fun.
Yeah, and you've had us set up on like 9-weight rods this week, 500 to 700 grain sink tips, and flies that you're 10, 12 inches, big proper bait fish flies.
Yeah, correct. It's October, so already in October there are a few rivers that they are open for fishing for them, because this for us is basically a winter species because of the spawning purposes. Like they spawn in late spring, so that's why we start to fish for them in October on some rivers. And then some rivers, most rivers then open in November and lasts until 15th of February. So for us, the winter sort of fishery, so that's why there's basically fishing here all year round. For the hucho, they're cool. I mean, I do like it because it's a big fish.
It's a big animal. When you see these things, it's impressive. Again, that they're in these small, oftentimes kind of alpine type rivers. It's pretty amazing. Well, you've got the marble trout, you've got the hucho, the taimen, but you also, along with those species, have super legit and consistent fishing for the rainbows and browns. And these trout species are found in most rivers in Slovenia, correct?
Yeah, correct. I mean, if there's a little creek and if there's running water that is colder, there will be trout in it. I mean, this for sure. And then it usually when I meet guest clients in the morning, I ask them, what their preferences would be. Because again, this not only the matter of diversity, but it's also the amount or size of the fish that varies from river to river. So sometimes you can catch loads of smaller fish. We're talking, I don't know, let's say 10 inches, 10 to 15 inches, but it's loads. So it's easy, very forgiving fishing. Or you can go to fish for a certain fish that are bigger in rivers that maybe don't have as many fish, but they would be bigger. And I mean, that of course is a little bit more challenging, but so that's why also the decision sometimes in the morning is either we do maul and relax kind of day, or we go target something that might be very rewarding at the end of the day, but might also not be. So this is always the question and the dilemma that we have.
Well, I knew there were a lot of trout over here, but what I've been really surprised by are the size of some of these fish. We have found some huge trout this week, both rainbows and browns, and you kind of have the whole spectrum. Everything, as you said, from the numbers to the trophy size, some really big fish. As far as food sources for the trout, both the rainbows, browns, marbles, what are these fish typically eating? I mean, are there consistent hatches here in Slovenia? What's their main food source, and what are anglers using to typically target trout?
Sure. I mean, Slovenia, apart from one very, very small mountain range to the east, it's all limestone. So that means that the water pH level of the water will be perfect. It won't be acidic at all. So that means that in terms of hatches and bugs, aquatic life, it's amazing. I mean, then it really depends. Every river is its own ecosystem, of course, and that also determines the fly life as well. So the freestone rivers that we saw this October, so we saw some hatches of some little stoneflies, but this is October, so it's towards the autumn type of hatches. So it would be little stoneflies, it would be blue-winged olives, and it would be caddises that we saw, right? So this is the autumn on the freestone rivers. In the summertime, there will be a lot of midge. In the spring, it will be some BVOs again, there will be some pale morning duns, and there will be these big stoneflies, the Perla maximas, right, on some rivers. So these are the freestone rivers, so talking about the upper parts of the Sava and the Socha that come from the Julian Alps or the Karavanke mountain range, right? So then when it comes to the spring creeks, so the chalk streams, that's different because the bottom is grassy, so the bottom is a lot more lush because it's a spring creek, and in those rivers we will have different flies. So one of the biggest ones would be the Ephemera danica, so this is the big mayfly.
Huge mayfly.
Yeah, huge mayfly, yeah. So that will be there, but the biggest hatches are the rusty spinners. So it's like a brownish spinner. I mean, those come in great numbers. They're really, really big ones. But those would be spring type of hatches. So every river is a little bit different. I used to carry like a lot of flies with me, but now when I go to a certain river, I already know. I like pick this, 10 flies, and that's that. I don't really need all the freestone stuff on the spring creeks because they're totally different, right?
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the season in Slovenia. So if I'm going to make a trip to come here and fish, let's say I'm coming from the States, the most popular fishing season is typically from, say, late spring to early fall, from like mid to late April through early October. Is that accurate?
So, some rivers already open in March, and these March, April, also think of it like this, if there is. Nowadays we rarely have, but if there is snowmelt, this is going to happen not in April, but going to happen a little bit later, toward late April, beginning of May and June on the freestone rivers. But alone snowmelt as such, it doesn't really cause a problem. It's the combination of snowmelt and rain that usually lifts the waters up and keeps them up. Because this is the key, keeps them up. Because if it's only rain, they're going to drain, in 1 or 2 days. You've seen when you came here, it was not high, but it was basically the rivers were flooded. And now, 6 days later, they're fine, right? We were fishing like the first day rivers when we were looking at alpine stuff. It was like, running gray, like really high, but the spring creeks were fine. So anyway, there is no such thing as best time to come really, because this determines a little bit from river to river. So the spring creeks, yes, it would be better May and June because those would be the times where you have mayflies and stuff hatching. But on the alpine stuff, May and June is maybe not optimal because you can have snowmelt with rain combinations, right? So probably the most sure it's late June, July, August, September, October, because this would be guaranteed low water level. And also, but then that would probably mean that would not be fishing quite upper parts of the rivers because sometimes there's like just so many people on vacation and stuff like that. So a little bit lower parts of the rivers where it's a bit more quiet, and those parts we would not be able to fish in earlier time as well because it would be simply too much water.
But what's interesting is there are pretty much year-round opportunities in Slovenia to fish for something. The wintertime for the taimen. I think you were telling me the other day that other than about a 2-week window where everything is closed fishing-wise, other than that, there's always something you can go out and fish and target. Yeah, correct.
The only time that is really nothing happening is from 15th of February till 1st of March. So these two weeks, can tie a few flies, but it's still not going to be enough of them.
Well, if you fish in the U.S. West, especially these days during the peak summer season, the main rivers, things are going to be crowded. There's a lot of anglers that hit the famous rivers all throughout the West and throughout the U.S. You guys deal with the same thing here on some of your rivers. You definitely have anglers. It's not like people are coming over here and no one is fly fishing at all. This has been a European destination, especially for a lot of years. And so if you go to some of the more well-known rivers in Slovenia in the peak summer months, you're going to see some other anglers. But as you just mentioned, especially with 25 years of roaming all over the country and your experience, you always know where to go to avoid some of those crowds.
Yeah, I'll be always the first person to go away, but yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, the world is becoming sort of very similar, everywhere, right? And Slovenia, no exception. So yes, there are parts of some more famous rivers that in the late spring, they get visited quite a lot by fly fishermen. So, then those, I mean, then we have people fishing, which for fishermen, it's not optimal. And then in the summer, you have people hiking, rafting, kayaking, floating with inflatable swans, if you want. I mean, like all sorts of stuff. So
it's like the lower Madison.
I mean, yeah, so
tube hatch.
Yeah, that's correct. Anything goes. But we didn't mention something. So yes, correct. All the rivers in the country, they are public. There's no private water. So yeah, there's no private water, meaning that the rivers as such are owned by the government as well as high water mark bank. And then they are further on either managed directly by Fisheries Research Institute, that is a government-run operation, or fishing clubs that are private clubs that lease the rivers from the government. And then it's possible to buy licenses, daily licenses from them. We don't buy licenses in advance simply because the conditions change. So we decide in the morning where we're going, depending on, let's say, client's idea, what one would like to do, but more importantly, what is in terms of weather-wise and conditions-wise appropriate for the given day.
Well, I thought that was interesting. The fact that all the rivers in Slovenia are public waters, and the high water mark is very similar to our stream access laws in Montana. If you can, get to the river and access it, you can fish it. But what makes it different, as you said, is the fishing clubs, they lease a river or a stretch of river, but not just for their own private use. They're at that point in charge of managing and regulating the river, and they're the ones that sell the licenses. So when you come to Slovenia, you don't buy just a general national fishing license. You have to buy a license from each individual club, depending on which river and sometimes even which section you're fishing. And that changes from day to day.
Yeah, that is correct. But the good thing is that this is available and this we can do. So that gives us the chance to do something different every day. And I mean, like these sections, they're not small. I mean, they go the biggest club, like the fishing club of, let's say, Tolmin or so, it manages 9 different rivers, and we're talking about 140 miles of water, so it's huge. But on the other hand, we have, let's say, some other clubs, the fishing club, or let's say Lake Bled on the other side, or the fishing club of Idrija or so, that manage 1 or 2 liter streams, and we're talking maybe 15 miles of water. But I mean, 15 miles of water per day, I mean, is more than enough.
Plenty to fish.
Yeah, we're not talking like, I don't know, half a mile of one bank, so it's more than enough. So that also gives us the chance that if someone comes, that a certain section or beat would be, I don't know, that you'd need to book it far in advance, and that beat would get blown out because of the weather or certain conditions or so, that we would be then like, sitting in a fancy hotel drinking wine and that would be it. No, we can just move around and go to another river. So quite often, like when people ask me, what's the plan for the week, I'm like, I don't really know, because we have to go day by day.
Yeah. And it is, from an outsider's perspective, somewhat complicated. This, to me, and I know there are, Austrians and Europeans that have figured it out and will come down and do this, but I can't imagine having just rolled in here from the States as a DIY trip and figuring this out on my own, because you have to work with the different fishing clubs for the different rivers, different regions. Not an easy thing. My advice for anyone looking to come over here is you just set up a package with Rok. He takes care of the logistics. He makes it very easy. you can focus on the fishing and not figuring out how to access different sections, where to go, and even for that matter, finding these rivers, because I've been honestly turned around the whole time we've been here. You know this, everything like the back of your hand, Rok. It's impressive, but we've driven every little back road and mountain road, and I'm trying to figure out where exactly we've been, but it's amazing. And now, is catch and release mandatory on a lot of these rivers, or are there pretty stringent regulations in place?
So no, I mean, mostly, I mean, you've been with me now for like a week, so you also have like a rough idea how things go and where you are. So if there's someone from States, if would come to you, I mean, you would give them the pretty much legit answer as well. So yeah, you can contact Jim, and you know he'll put you on the right track. So that's not a problem. So yeah, I mean, where were we? So
We're talking about catch and release.
Catch release, yeah. Sorry. So most of the people nowadays would practice catch and release. I mean, we do have some areas that would be stocked. I mean, you know, that's to be honest, and those areas, it's also an area where a local guy will come, and you know, he might take you know, a stocked fish and will come home to, you know, brag with it to wife or so. I mean, you know, you have to justify the means of going, right, to the family sometimes. So, but the regulations are like that the fish population will be thriving no matter what, you know. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, the catch release does help the fish populations quite a lot, but it's not the only thing that does. I mean, of course, I haven't like taken a trout in 20 years, right? So, yeah, catch release is definitely the way to go. But like I said, it's not the only one. You need to have a proper sort of stocking program as well. But we're not talking stocking program as adult fish. We're also talking juvenile or fish eggs as such, so that you can boost nature a little bit when needed. I mean, sometimes in some parts of the rivers, the best thing is also to do nothing. Let the nature take its course, and it will do what nature does best, right? But yeah, sometimes like if there was a human intervention being done in the past that was not a correct one, yeah, we can fix it if the environment didn't change. So this quite often, but yeah, because of this, I mean, we have some research operations and so going on that they do a lot of work. And yeah, some projects like the marble trout project in the past was successful, and yes, it was a restoration of the species that went well.
Well, another regulation over here that is nationwide that I thought was fascinating is when you fish, you can only fish one fly. When we see a lot of fisheries in the Western U.S., for example, you know, it's a hopper dropper, or you might be fishing a double nymph rig. Here, no matter the river or the species, you're allowed to fish one fly.
Yeah, correct. I mean, we have on most of the rivers that would be considered trout streams is fly fishing only. Fly fishing only using barbless hook with a single fly. I mean, this is a state regulation. So, and the clubs that lease the water from the government, they can make the rules more strict, but they can't loosen them up. So also meaning that in some areas you will have no indicator allowed.
That was fascinating to me. When you're nymph fishing, we fished a section. What was the name of the river that we were on?
The Idrica,
where we were nymphing. The water was a little bit higher, but no indicators allowed, which was really pretty cool. You don't find that anywhere in the States, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is interesting. It's not that cool when you take an elderly people fishing that can't see it, you know, can't see the take. So, no, I mean, it's fine. I mean, there is also a section of that river that is dry fly only. And there are also some streams that are dry fly only. There are some streams like one area that we go to that's required to have a 5-weight rod and a 5X tippet, not lower, because you would then play big fish for too long, so they get too exhausted, right? So, I mean, yeah, every club has then certain regulations and most of them are there for a reason, you know.
And what also is interesting is pretty much every day that we've been fishing, we have had kind of the warden, I guess you would call it, from the club come down, check on us, check licenses, make sure that everything was legal. These clubs are really active in the management of these sections.
Yeah, I mean, I always like to see the game warden come. I mean, sometimes he would just like wave the hand and say like, yeah, okay, they're with you, you're fine. You know, it's all okay. But yeah, no, they will come. I mean, in the Fisheries Research Institute, the people are employed there, but in the fishing clubs, most of it's voluntarily based. So yeah, I mean, like they will come and they need to have a certain education that's done from the government. So they are not quite like police, and they're not quite like what you would have. What's the organization?
Like fishing game.
Fishing game. I mean, they're not wildlife sort of agents, but they can write a report that then goes to the court, and then you get fined from the court. Let's say if someone doing something wrong.
It's cool though. I mean, the clubs are paying attention to what's going on in these sections and keeping them healthy, which is great. Let's pivot for a second and talk about the actual travel logistics of getting to Slovenia. Again, if I'm thinking about coming over here and doing a week-long trip, what's involved if you're coming from the U.S. to get to Slovenia? Where am I flying into if I'm coming to fish?
So yeah, I mean, the easiest and the most convenient is to fly to Ljubljana, which is our capital, and then stay like, let's say, locally in the center of the country to be able to move around more easily. So then we're talking from hotel to the airport, like 15 minutes. So yeah, very, very near. I mean, it's a small airport as well. I mean, don't think of it as a dirt strip. It's
an international
airport.
But simple to access. I mean, I flew Salt Lake direct to Paris, had a couple hours in Paris, and I hopped on that quick flight from Paris to Ljubljana that was like an hour and 15 minutes or something.
Yeah, simple. I mean, it's very simple. I mean, but if some people would have difficulty in coming to Ljubljana airport, there are then other options. So one other option is Zagreb, Croatia. This would be to the central part of Slovenia, like an hour and a half drive. Trieste, Italy, this would be an hour and a half drive. Some people also combine it with Venice, because Venice is actually not that far from us. So from, let's say, central Slovenia to Venice is 2.5 hour drive.
Yeah, so easy to pair some fishing in Slovenia. Let's say, a trip to Croatia, certainly to Italy if you're doing a vacation over there, even Austria, pretty easy to get here.
Yeah, another airport that is possible to fly into. I mean, there is one that is, but it's a small one. It's smaller than the other. It's called Klagenfurt, this Austria. It could be Vienna or Budapest as well, but this then we're talking a good almost 4 hour drive. But yeah, I mean, like it's very, very, very easy to do Slovenia as a part of other destinations. Like if you go, like Jim, like you said, like if you go to Italy, Croatia, maybe Hungary or Austria, just hop over the border and do like a week's fishing. I mean, if you come with the missus as well, I mean, like she has plenty of other things to do, because I mean, Slovenia is like actually kind of, when I think of it, it's like tiny Europe, everything packed into this small area. So yeah, you can do it all.
Well, and I did want to bring that up, the non-angling opportunities here. We get a lot of couples that do want to fish together. Sometimes there's one angler and a significant other that doesn't really want to fish, but there is so much in this country to see and do. I mean, again, this is classic old Europe with incredible architecture, amazing history, the beauty of the countryside. A lot of these places we've been roaming around. This is a spectacular place to visit, even if you're not fishing.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's really, really a lot of history. I mean, I just like to sum a little bit up. I mean, I'm 45 and I'm on my 4th different currency, right? So there's always something going on. So yeah, there's a lot of changes, and sometimes for the better, sometimes maybe not, but historically things usually level out a little bit. So yeah, there's a lot of architecture. There's plenty to do. I mean, we have within an hour's drive, you can be on the coastline. With about half an hour's drive, you're right in the heart of the mountains. with vineyards in between, and then Pannonic flatland to the east. So that also makes it quite interesting for a non-fisherman, even more so from gastronomical, so food-wise point of view. I mean, we take a little bit from the neighbors, and like you have so schnitzeli alpine stuff, and you have from then the pizzas and the pasta culture from the Mediterranean side. You'd have like the cevapcici and the pleskavica and the baklavas and stuff from the Mediterranean side. And then from the east, you'll have a bit of influences on the stews like the goulashes and things like that from Hungary. So it's a blend of stuff. It really is. I mean, it doesn't blend through, but it almost like it's like a collage of different diversities that are here but are not mixed, so you can sample them all. Yeah,
the food has been spectacular. We have not had a bad meal since we've been here, and I have probably gained 15 pounds this week. I mean, the food is sensational.
So that means we need to walk a bit more today then.
For sure. Where do the majority of your clients right now come from? Most of your anglers are from Europe?
So I would put it down that 60% of people come still from UK, because it's from UK, it's like, I think it's a 2-hour flight. So it's a very easy one. I mean, a lot of it would be like guys come for an extended weekend, like 4 days of fishing, just 5-6 friends come over and fish for 4 days. And so this would be one of the most, this would be the most common thing. But there's also some people from, let's say, also US that work in Europe and then do a trip here over as a vacation sort of thing. But there is also like a bit of growing of people just coming here to do a fishing package, a fishing trip with maybe, like you mentioned earlier, wife going or some friends going to either sightsee or cycle, because cycling also now becoming quite popular in Slovenia. I mean, it's one of the better destinations to do so as well.
Yeah, you have the world champion cyclist from Slovenia.
Yeah, we have now 2 extremely good cyclists. Yeah, world best. Yeah. So, and they have a nice playground to practice here as well.
Gosh. And are you seeing more Americans starting to make the trip? I mean, there is a buzz at home about Slovenia, no doubt about it. I think there's a buzz about fishing in Europe in general that has become very popular in the last several years. But are you seeing more Americans making the trip?
I mean, historically, we made sure that our rivers are very healthy. Because we do know that we have this nice, really cool ecosystem with all the diversity. So, I mean, there is maybe more people coming over from US, but I wouldn't really say overrun or overcrowded. So there's still plenty of space for everyone.
Well, if I'm traveling from the States, let me talk about gear for just a moment. Do I need to bring everything with me, or can I rent gear from you once I get here? Do I need to bring my own, or can I travel light? Talk to me about that.
So the only thing that I would sort of suggest, and I do suggest to people to bring, is at least waders. Because this ensures the best fit, and sometimes, who knows? I mean, if someone was wearing something before, I mean, it's still waders. It's still clothing if you want, So, and then we can supply the boots and the reels and the rods if needed to. I mean, if someone is coming for a week, I mean, yeah, or just just simply fishing. So it's maybe the best to bring your own, because one is a custom made and likes it and so on, because fly fishing is also a lot about feeling and being confident and so on, right? Yeah. But no, otherwise we can supply as well. I mean, everything. But like I said, I mean, one thing, the waders, they're like, it's nothing much to it. So.
Well, and we've been in boots and waders all week, all day, because we've been, getting after it and fishing hard. But I would definitely recommend that people bring, great breathable waders, good wading boots, because you're going to be in them for 8-10 hours a day. So,
yeah.
Even when we take a break midday and go to lunch, we're still sitting there in the restaurant wearing our waders, and you want to be comfortable. Rods and reels, I know for the trout fishing out here, it's mostly 5 weights. You can fish 4s.
So yeah, I would go for a trout setup. I would go anything from 3 to 5, like 8 to 10 feet. This would be basically the most simple, reliable setup with a floating line, and that's pretty much it. Quite often, if we do something special, or if someone would like to do something special, I mean, I have plenty of hucho or big rods, or we can do like some small creeks that one would like to play around a little bit. I mean, I have 6'6", 2 weights to play with the smaller fish. So if something special, then yeah, we can provide, no problem. But if one comes with 8 to 10 foot, 3 to 5 weight, it's fine.
And floating lines.
And floating line.
Yeah. How about fly patterns? I mean, obviously you guys provide the fly patterns, but a lot of Euro type nymphs, typical dry flies, caddis patterns, mayflies. You were talking about some stoneflies earlier. If people have a selection of Western typical trout flies, should they bring them over as well? Or is this something that you'd recommend people just leave it at home and fish your stuff?
No, I mean, like, why not? I mean, always. The only thing is that, let's say, when it comes to nymph patterns and things like that, I mean, they have to have tungsten bead. Without tungsten bead, you're just simply not going down enough, So brass beads and without beads and this, I mean, no, because also on some rivers, the split shots are not allowed. So all the brass beads and so they're just not going to get down. So tungsten beaded flies in terms of sizes from 14 to 18, sometimes 20-ish, let's say. And then sort of standard dry flies ranging from size 14 to 18 in terms of Adamses and Miji patterns and blue VO patterns and things like that. So no, fine. Yeah, bring with. I mean, sometimes trout like to see something new as well.
And there's some streamer opportunities as well for people that want to do that.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, if the conditions are right for streamers, yeah, we'll fish streamers as well. I mean, but also when it comes to streamers, we're mostly gonna use flies that resemble small trout, or small fish. Yeah, small fish, because most of our rivers are gin clear, so the fish will distinguish from a few feathers being tied on a hook from something that actually does look like a fish imitation, right?
What about other key pieces of equipment that people should think about bringing over? What are some of the things that people overlook when they're packing for a fishing trip to Slovenia?
I mean, one thing that maybe is helpful on some occasions for some people would be a wading stick. So this one can be helpful, and luckily you can leave your bug spray behind.
Yeah, we haven't seen anything. That's great. Great sunglasses, of course. Spotting fish is a big part of fishing a lot of these rivers. And I would say layering, because again, you might be in that high alpine environment where things can be a little bit cold, especially in the mornings, and then it heats up midday. So a really effective layering system, and of course, great rain gear to go along with your waders, because you never know what you're going to find weather-wise.
Yeah, this correct. I mean, because this still, on most cases, alpine environment, even if going south toward the spring creeks, I mean, the fronts come and go very rapidly. So yeah, like you said, actually good point. And then in the summertime, July, August, late June, beginning of September, sometimes it's quite hot, even in the morning. So we're talking like t-shirts and shorts, and it's fine. We also, in the middle of the summer, we do some wet wading as well. So this going to be warm environment. But when it comes to spring and autumn, as it is now, yeah, it will be sort of fleece situation for us in the morning. And then it can come to long sleeves, let's say, during daytime. So yeah, like a few layers is a good one for early spring and late towards the autumn. And then in the winter, a lot of people think, hucho, this is going to be winter, going to be freezing. And not really, because nowadays, I mean, the daily temperature in the winter gets to maybe a degree or two above freezing point. And then walking and casting all day long. I mean, if we go skiing, this more cold than going fishing, feeling more cold than going to fish, let's say, for hucho in the winter, because you're moving all the time.
Yeah, a lot of walking for sure.
Yeah.
Well, to summarize for us, Rok, what kind of angler should consider a trip to Slovenia? Who's a good fit for coming over here and fishing these locations? If you were to kind of describe the perfect kind of destination fit.
So here, that's another thing that when we were talking earlier about the diversity of stuff. So we have rivers that are, I mean, total great for beginners, because even a total beginner never fly rod in hand before will catch something, you know, because there's a lot of pocket water. So yeah, pocket water between the boulders and the rivers have high amount of fish. So even a person that can cast a rod length, you know, will catch something. So that makes it so. And then you have from that to rivers that it's kind of like, think of it a bit more like New Zealand. You walk and you sight fish for a fish, right? That makes it, and you have a single cast to it, and then it will get spooked. So, and all in between. So therefore, the destination is basically suitable, really is suitable for everyone.
And as far as length of a trip, I mean, you can book anything from, you know, a week-long trip that really kind of gives you a total overview of so many different types of fisheries, really shows you the diversity. Or as we talked about a moment ago, let's say you're vacationing in Venice and you want to hop over and just add on a couple days, that's possible as well, kind of everything.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, correct. I mean, we've been here fishing multiple rivers in one day because I want to show Jim around and Tom as much as I can, but still I'm running out of time, you know? So yeah, there's so much. I mean, there's months and months of fishing to be done, and for different species. I mean, like I said, I'm still running out of time because I would still want to show more. So yes, it's possible to do, I don't know, from 1 week, 2 week trip, or just a single day, sometimes even the morning or the afternoon.
When an angler comes to Slovenia, specifically for a fishing trip, they come here for the first time, what do you think they're most surprised about when they get here and see what this country has to offer?
Oof, this is an interesting one. I mean, one that I mean, just kind of like sticks in my mind is the hucho one, because a lot of people thought this like gone, extinct, doesn't exist, you know? And then people go, oh, because we thought we're going to see one in a week, you know? I'm like, well, no, you're going to see 4 in a pool sometimes, you know? So this one, and like you said, the size of the fish. I mean, yes, but also the size of the fish. I mean, this a little bit sometimes difficult because yes, everybody now see the pictures and this and that. So it's the size of the fish they are in some rivers bigger. I mean, but that doesn't mean one will catch 10 in a day, you know? So I think still the coolest thing is the diversity of stuff, as well as for when we are driving from, let's say, one area to another, all the culture and all the history and all the background in between. So one would get, you know, 80% fishing, yes, of course, I mean, as a fishing trip, but then there's 20% of the culture stuff as well that then becomes like a nice package altogether.
Yeah, I would say the biggest surprises I've found, one has been, again, that just an incredible amount of fishing, so many different kinds of water, and the fact that everywhere we're driving, every village we're passing through, every road, there's a river right there or a stream right there. There's so much water in this country. And then, of course, that diversity of species, you know, all the different types of trout, the iconic marble trout, the hucho, the big rainbows and browns, the European grayling. I mean, you have so many different species. My other big takeaway is the color of the water. And this is something that you see in photos, and it's just this, you know, some of these rivers, like over the Socha, just electric blue, almost turquoise. It's more akin to what you would find like in the Caribbean than you would in typical mountain scenarios. Just gorgeous colors of the water, and how absolutely crystal clear some of these waters are as well.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, there are, when we talk about this blue water, right? I mean, there are about 4 rivers that have this turquoise blue color. One in the central Slovenia, the Sava system, so and 3 in the Socha system. So that this really, really blue water, this is because of all the rock is limestone, and this white limestone, and then the silt deposits on the bottom. So then this silt is, we're talking fine powder, right? But still grinded rock, let's say. And then this, because of light and so, it looks like, saltwater stuff. I mean, turquoise blue. I get a lot of people thought like, oh, I saw this, but I actually thought it was enhanced by a computer. But now when I see it, it actually really does look like it, right? So yeah, I mean, we have this blue water that it really does look like fishing in the tropics in the sea somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, it's spectacular. If people haven't seen those photos, I would encourage you to go to the Yellow Dog website and check it out, because the colors are unlike anything I've seen anywhere else in the world. Well, Rok, this has been great. Thank you so much for sitting down with us and sharing your knowledge and your experience here in Slovenia. But most of all, thanks for hosting us this past week, driving us all over the country, and sharing this incredible country. It has been a real treat to come to Slovenia, and I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you so much, Jim and Tom. I mean, it's been a pleasure to be taking you around, and I mean, I truly hope we do it again someday.
Oh, we definitely will. And I would say my advice to anyone who is looking for their next great freshwater fishing adventure, I would say you should strongly consider this trip. This is a destination that combines incredible fishing, diverse angling scenarios, rich history and culture, of course, amazing food like we talked about, and scenery that is absolutely mind-blowing. Yellow Dog will be booking this program in Slovenia, so listeners can view full details on the Yellow Dog website and contact us if they're interested in booking with Rok and making the trip over. We're excited to be adding Slovenia to the lineup, and we look forward to working with anyone that wants to get over here. Well, that is it for this latest episode of Waypoints, recorded live on location in Slovenia. Waypoints is the podcast that is 100% dedicated to travel, destination angling, and the search for adventure. Be sure to visit yellowdogflyfishing.com to plan and research travel, source gear, equipment, and flies for your next destination, and stay up to date on the latest angling news and developments. Join us for our next episode, and remember, get out there and travel, because life is short and no one ever regretted a life of adventure.
This has been another episode of Waypoints, the podcast of fly fishing travel and adventure angling. Waypoints is produced by Brian Gregson, with music provided by the Steep Canyon Rangers. Visit yellowdogflyfishing.com for more destination profiles, travel news, and expert advice, and be sure to join us for our next episode.